about Indonesia. So we're gonna talk about the culture and traditions, and then the foods, and some natural wonders, and some places that you need to visit if you ever go to Indonesia. So if you didn't know, Indonesia is located here, so that's Taiwan, and Indonesia is located at like the south of Taiwan. So this one is the Philippines, and then this is Indonesia. And Indonesia actually has a lot of islands, like we have around 17,000 islands, but there are 5 main biggest islands. That the most left one is Sumatra, and then there's Java, Borneo, Sulawesi, and Papua. And we live here near the capital, so the capital is like here. And we, our national clothes is pretty famous, but I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called batik. So it's like it's basically a patterned cloth, and each so there are because Indonesia is huge, right? So there's a lot of region and areas with their own animals and plants and. So each area we have our own pattern, and each pattern they have their own meaning, and sometimes it's inspired by things we see in daily life. Like for example, we can see that the pattern there we have birds, and then clouds and flowers. Yeah, so across the whole country, every area has its own pattern. And when to wear these clothes is when you attend formal occasions. Like for example, you go to the wedding, or if you have school graduation. And for us, back when we were in school, we had to wear it once every week, every Friday. And actually, you can find batik everywhere in Indonesia. But if you want to learn how to make one, or you want to buy the best batik, one of the most famous region is called Yogyakarta. So in Yogyakarta, you can try to make your own batik. So here is how you make batik. So first, so that's the person is holding something called canting. So this, so first you like melt the wax, and then you draw the pattern with the hot wax. And after that, the cloth will be dyed, and for complex patterns with a lot of colors, because usually batik has a lot of patterns and colors, so it will be dyed many times. And because of this complicated process, and the picture is hand drawn, right? So it's very expensive. So these days, we create like a cheaper alternative. It's called like printed batik. And this is another way to color batik. They didn't dip the cloth in dye, but they like painted it themselves. That's why hand-drawn batik is very expensive. And Indonesia is very big with religions. We have 6 official religions. The biggest one, like Iran, most of Indonesians are Muslim, like more than 87%, but we're not a Muslim country. That's why we have 6 official religions. So we also have Christian, Catholic, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. And we even have to state our religion in our national ID. When I meet people from other countries, they're often shocked, like why we need to put our religion in the national ID, but that's the way it is. Like there you can see agama, it's religion, and because we have 6 official religions, we try to respect one another. And on the bright side, we have lots of religion-related holidays. And this is one of the biggest mosques in Southeast Asia. It's called Masjid Istiqlal. So one of the ways we respect each other's religion is, so this is one of the biggest mosques in Asia, right? And right across this mosque is this church. It's called Gereja Katedral Jakarta, or Jakarta Cathedral Church. And it is one of the oldest Catholic churches in Indonesia. It has been here since 1829 because Indonesia was colonized by the Dutch at that time, and most of the Dutch were Catholics. That's why you have this church. And Indonesia has a lot of islands, like I mentioned before, so we have a lot of ethnic groups. We have more than 1,300 ethnic groups, and that's why Indonesians will look so different from each other. On the left-hand side, we have our president and his wife, and that I would say that's what typical Indonesians look like. And then in the middle, we have Chinese Indonesians, and most of Chinese Indonesians cannot speak Chinese because there was a time where Chinese Indonesians aren't allowed to speak Chinese, and we all have to change our Chinese names to Indonesian names. And the right-hand side is people from the west of Indonesia, or Papua, and sometimes people mistake them from being from Africa or America. Okay, now let's talk about Indonesian foods. So other than our famous instant noodle, we also have these two foods called rendang and nasi goreng, which are the first and second of CNN's World's 50 Best Foods in 2011. Yeah, 2011. So rendang is actually beef dipped in coconut milk with spices, and we have to cook it for at least 7 hours. And nasi goreng is, it's like a regular fried rice, but in Indonesia we cook it with a lot of soy sauce, so it's really sweet. And actually we have a lot of Indonesian restaurants in Taiwan or in Taipei. Even in Taipei there is like 2 or 3 Indonesian restaurants. So my favorite Indonesian restaurant in Taipei is Gomart and Dorajaya. And also in Taipei we have Batavia and Chandu. So if you're interested, I can give you the contact details of these Indonesian restaurants. And also, as we mentioned before, because Indonesia was colonized by the Dutch actually for 350 years, so we have a lot of Dutch-inspired foods. Like that one is called semur, and the Dutch name is smoor. It's also beef, and we have perkedel, and the Dutch name is frikadeller, and also kroket. So these are some of my favorite Dutch-inspired foods in Indonesia. And also we have like that one is called Holland biefstuk, which is like Dutch beef steak. And also we have this dessert called klappertaart. So the Indonesian and Dutch name are the same. So it's like a coconut dessert made with almonds and a lot of nuts, so it's really delicious. And in Indonesia, we have a lot of natural wonders. Like for example, because we're located in the Ring of Fire, so we have a lot of volcanoes, or more than 100 volcanoes. And it might seem dangerous, like you see everything is red, but it's actually pretty safe, and you can actually climb the volcanoes. So a lot of our volcanoes are still active, and they're really beautiful. If you're strong enough, you can climb them and get on top of them. Like the harder the climb, the more beautiful the view is. But we've never climbed one before because it's too tiring. Like if you want to get to the top, you must at least spend a day. And but we've been here before, but with Jeep, so you can rent a car. If you're too tired, you don't have to go on foot, and you can rent a car. And I think it's, even though we didn't get to the top, I still think it's pretty beautiful. You can watch the sunrise, and you're standing like above the clouds. So yeah, it's a pretty amazing view. And this is one of our biggest lakes. It's called Lake Toba. So it was actually formed by a mega volcanic eruptions like 74,000 years ago. And it's over 1,000 square kilometers. So it's actually more like a sea than it is a lake. It is actually the world's largest crater lake, as well as the largest lake in Southeast Asia, and it's also one of the deepest in the world. It's also very beautiful, like a lot of hills, and Indonesia is also a cheap country, so you can travel from the east to the west of Indonesia with, like, you don't have to have a lot of money to travel around Indonesia. And we're gonna introduce some of the places that you must visit if you ever come to Indonesia. So other than the biggest mosque and also church, we also have the biggest Buddhist temple that was built in the 8th century. So it's now already over 1,200 years old. And it has an area of 15,000 square meters. So you can see, compared to the temple, the people are so tiny there. And what's special about this temple is because it's built from volcanic rock that is cut into blocks. And it's arranged vertically or horizontally without any adhesive at all. And it is the biggest Buddhist temple in the world. And just a few minutes ride by car from the Buddhist temple, we also have a big Hindu temple that was built in the 9th century, which is 50 years after Borobudur, the Buddhist temple I just mentioned. And it's the largest Hindu temple in Indonesia and also the 7th largest in the world. So we have all these large Buddhist and also Hindu temples because at the very beginning, Indonesia was ruled by large Buddhist and also Hindu kingdoms. Okay, now moving on to the places you have to visit. First, it's Bali. Of course, you have to visit Bali. It's the most famous island in Indonesia. And be careful when you're in Bali. Make sure not to step on those things right there. Those are offerings because Bali is an island full of Hindu, and they often place those offerings like that in front of the door. So make sure that you don't step on it. And in Bali, you can visit Ubud Monkey Forest. So it's a forest full of monkeys, and they let the monkeys run free so they can steal your things and also chase you, which is pretty scary but also fun. And you have to visit the beaches in Bali. So this beach is called Kelingking Beach, located in Nusa Penida, which is a small island, just 10 minutes from Bali. And also you should visit the Bali Safari Park because at night you can rent like a cage car like that and feed the tigers, which is really cool, and you can also have lunch with lions. And this rice to race right here, it's been very popular lately. It's called the Galang Rice to Race, which is actually just a normal rice field, but in Indonesia, because we have a lot of mountains, so they have to build the rice field in the mountains, and they have to make a terrace like that to prevent the land from,
prevent landslide. Yeah. And in Bali, I suggest you don't stay at the hotel because there are a lot of cheap and beautiful Airbnbs. So, for example, this is our favorite Airbnb in Bali. It's called the Hideout Beehive. It's located deep in the forest, in the mountains. It's very secluded, so you can really get in touch with Bali's nature here. And also, we have another island that is not very well known among foreigners, which is called Labuan Bajo. And that island right there is called Pulau Pandar. It's very beautiful, and you also have to visit Labuan Bajo because we have this animal called Komodo dragons. So they are actually very huge lizards that are bigger than a man, and they are really scary because they are poisonous and they can bite you, and also they can run really fast and also swim. So when you visit this island, you have to go with a ranger, and you cannot go alone by yourself because you might get bitten by one of these animals. And also in Labuan Bajo, we have this really pretty pink beach. So the sand is pink because of like microscopic coral insects, and yeah, it's really beautiful. You should go there. And also, when you go to Labuan Bajo, we recommend you again not to stay at a regular hotel because we have this floating hotel called the Finisi boat. So Indonesia is a very cheap country, like so for a very cheap price you can get 3 meals a day and a free barbecue night, and also the bedroom with an ocean view like that. And also the boat will stop in the middle of the sea, and they can take you snorkeling and diving at this place called the Manta Point, where you can see sea turtles and also manta rays and big beautiful fish. Okay, that's it for our presentation. Thank you.